We'll provide you with tips to take the best pictures with the RICOH THETA SC2. Tip 1. Use HDR. If there are light and dark areas of the scene, use HDR. The left image is the default settings. The right image is using HDR. HDR will compensate for some dark areas. You should put the camera in a tripod when you use HDR. There should also be no moving objects in your scene. If it's a sports scene, you cannot use HDR. An ideal usage would be for real estate sales, where there are no people in the shot and there is nothing moving in the shot. Other examples are to use it for used car sales, where there is bright light streaming in through a window. There is no button on the SC2 to turn it into HDR mode. You must use the RICOH THETA mobile app to configure HDR. The first step is to use the mobile app to take a picture with the HDR filter on. The second step is to take HDR without using the mobile phone. In order to do this, you will need to save the HDR setting into My Settings. For most real estate shots, HDR is going to be superior. In my test, it's exactly the same quality as the SC2 for business. Let's set it up. From the mobile app, go to the Options setting. Scroll to the left until you see HDR rendering. Make sure HDR rendering is in the middle. The completed image will then appear in your mobile app. Tip 2. Save HDR settings to My Settings to enable HDR by default. This will enable you to use HDR without a mobile phone. Perfect for self-timer use. From the mobile app screen, go to the upper right-hand corner for Settings. Select My Settings. Select Register to Camera. Your current settings will be saved to the default settings when you turn on your camera. The next time you turn on the camera, you will now be in HDR mode. Simply press the shutter button, get out of the picture, and take a beautiful HDR shot. This is great if you can hide behind a wall or a pillar. Don't trip. To take it out of HDR, you need to use the mobile app and reset My Settings. Tip 3. EV compensation. By setting the EV compensation, you can make the default scene darker or brighter to change the mood. Often in real estate, the EV compensation is increased to make the real estate room look brighter and more lively. You can set this in the mobile app. You can also set the default EV settings in My Settings in addition to HDR and other settings. In the lower left-hand portion of the mobile app, select EV. Adjust the slider a couple of notches to start with. This will make it brighter in this example. Notice that I'm adding EV in addition to HDR. You can use one or the other or combine both. The completed picture is automatically sent to the mobile app. The one on the right is with a little bit of EV compensation, and the one on the left is the default HDR. The additional EV compensation could give your scene a slightly lighter view or a lighter look if this is what you're looking for in this type of picture. Some of it might be overexposed, for example, the windows, but it might be a compensation that you're willing to make. Tip 4. Upgrade your firmware. This often solves connection problems. This example uses the desktop application. Select File and Firmware Update. Make sure the camera has a good charge. Close to full charge is best. The desktop application will download the firmware from the internet and transfer it to your camera. You then need to start up the camera. With the camera unplugged from the computer, no USB cable is attached, turn it on. The OLED on the front of the camera will flash between still image camera icon and video icon. When the process is finished, it will stay still at the still image icon. Congratulations! You've just upgraded the firmware of your SC2 camera. You can verify the firmware version again with the desktop application or mobile app. I'm at the newest version. Tip 5. Restart the mobile app when it doesn't connect immediately. Occasionally, when you try to connect your mobile app to the RICOH Theta camera, you'll see this type of spinning icon. I can always connect. Sometimes I have to stop the app and then restart it. In this example, I'm trying to connect to the SC2. I have this spinning ball here for quite a while. This happens from time to time. If I stop the app by swiping upwards on an Android phone and then restarting it by clicking on the icon on my phone, it restarts. Everything's good. Tip 6. Erase photographer from shots. You can use the shutter button on the camera to take 2 shots using self-timer. So stand on each side of the lens, take the shots, and then erase yourself using Photoshop or GIMP. Stand directly in front of one of the lenses, use the self-timer, and take the first shot. The self-timer allows your fingers not to be in the picture. Walk to the other side of the camera and take the second shot. Open both pictures up in a photo editor. I'm using GIMP. Add an alpha transparency layer to each image. After you add a transparency layer, then use the eraser tool to erase yourself from each image. You're going to have to do this for each of the 2 images. On the second image, make sure to delete yourself from both sides of the image. Once you finish the erasure, then copy one image onto the other image as layers. After I merged the layers, I decided to adjust the brightness just a little to make the colors match exactly. Once everything is edited, export it as a JPEG and drop it into a photo viewer. So let's check it out. I have the 2 original images plus the third merged image. I'm going to open the third merged image into a 360 image viewer, and voila, I'm gone. You can easily edit the photographer out using this technique. Thanks for joining us. Give this video a like if you want to see more tutorials like this in the future.